Okay, awesome. We have some people online, so they should be able to hear now. I don't know if I have anything extra for the. Yeah, it should be okay. But yeah, so I will have more details around mid-October, and then it's going to be limited to 14 students. So the limit will be 14 students. The cool thing about this is that Friday, Saturday, and Sunday you have off. It's going to be the summer. So Albania is nearby. You can take a 20 euro bus for 4 hours from Pristina to Tirana, which is the capital city in Albania. And then from there, it's like another hour to the coast. I don't know if has anybody ever seen Albania? Okay, so Albania should be known for more than the people are known for like helping smuggle drugs. I mean, they have a pretty brutal stereotype, but that's Albania. And then I will take you guys on, maybe a weekend. I'll like, all right, guys, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z, or like a couple Fridays. Like, all right, you guys are doing your thing. We'll go on a visit here and there. But this is Albania, and it is dirt cheap. So we would be right here.
Oh, so Dr. Mo, you be with us?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So started talking.
Yeah, I mean, you go to by yourself, and I'm going to be there with you guys. So I'll be there with you guys the entire time. Yes.
How long would like when would it occur?
So I'm trying to plan now. It would be like June, July-ish time frame. So that's when it would occur. Yes.
If you graduate in May, are you no longer applicable?
I mean, anybody's applicable. Oh. So the first time I did this, it was to Dominican Republic. And that's where I learned you had to put a cap on things because there was just way too many students that were interested. I mean, again, it's Dominican Republic. And it was going to be right there in the ocean. But yeah, it'll be for the month. And then I will greet you guys at the airport. I'll make sure you guys get settled, make sure you guys get around and stuff like that. The cool thing is Ramadan won't be occurring at this time, so everything will be wide open. So it is a predominantly Muslim country. This is pretty much all Muslim. I think there's a couple Christians, not many. And then Kosovo is pretty much all Muslim. And then Serbia is Orthodox Christian. But these two countries had an issue. The only thing that's dangerous is going into Serbia or towards Serbia and them knowing that you have Kosovo tags in your car. Yeah. So, yeah, there was a big war. Serbia pretty much decimated a lot of Albanians in Kosovo, and the U.S. government moved in, NATO moved in to keep them safe. But Macedonia will be a trip. Macedonia is like an hour drive, the capital of Macedonia. Amazing, super cheap. So it's really good stuff. And of course, Greece isn't far. Italy's a hop, skip, and jump away. And then those that are not from the U.S., it is not difficult to get into Kosovo with your passport. So I know someone over there from India. He's living there, working there, and all that stuff. So it's not an issue. So they're pretty open. The only issue is when you go into countries that are part of the EU, because they're not part of the EU, not part of the EU, not part of the EU. This is known as the Balkans. So this is the part of Europe that's not like Europe. Like they're Europe because they're located there, but it is very different. But it's good. All right. But when I'll publish more details about the organizations and stuff like that, and yeah, we'll do some interesting stuff. I'll just show you the one organization that we'll do work with. I pray that the site works. And this is the organization that some people will be placed with. This is Kosovo CERT. So this is the incident response team for the entire country of Kosovo. I know the actual people who are running it and even the person who does their website and stuff like that. So I am in close contact with them. And so we'll work that out. And then there's research projects with RIT Kosovo as well. The individual who runs that is actually Indian. And so we have like a number of different projects to keep you engaged and stuff like that. And then if you get to a spot that you don't like, you're having you clashing, we'll chat and we'll just move you around. And going there as an American is they love Americans, right? One of the few places probably that still love us to death. They have a statue of Madeleine Albright, a statue of Bill Clinton. They do. They have
They really love America.
oh yeah. So Kosovo. I think I have a picture next to the statue. Yeah, I have a picture next to the statue. But yeah, it's a big statue. So I think they even have like Bill Clinton Street or something like that. It's yeah, Bill Clinton Boulevard. Oh yeah, it's they've done a lot for Kosovo. So your parents may remember Bill Clinton for other stuff that made the media. I was a kid when that came out. I was like, oh, Bill Clinton did what? And father's explaining it to me. I'm like, oh, okay. Everybody deserves fun. Okay. So I'm going to pull this up and then let me grab my clicker. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to finish covering this. Make sure I have this shared so those online can see. And for those online, I didn't hear me earlier. I'm going to launch a study abroad next year. And then I will be doing the study abroad every year. So if you have another 2 years here, there'll be another study abroad. If things work out, it'll be Kosovo next year. And then I'll probably end up doing like another study abroad, like Dominican Republic or Tunisia. So again, you don't have to speak these other languages. We will work things out where it will be easy to navigate. All right, let me do this. All right, awesome. So we talked about a number of things with the current criteria. The EALs, the evaluated assurance levels, right? 3 different items, 3 different artifacts: protection profile, security target, target evaluation. These particular items come from old criteria that was set out there. It's nothing new. That's why I tell you guys, if you learned one model, they're going to be very similar. A lot of similar functionality and stuff like that. Just the behaviors may change. All right, cover that. So this right here is just modes of operation. The item that I was discussing was MLS, and MLS is the real important one. To have MLS, you need something called RTOS, real-time operating systems. If you go to the current criteria website, you will see RTOS items that are certified to EAL for whatever. But you need to have an operating system where you can, it's small enough where you can properly analyze the source code and stuff like that. So now you're looking for issues and making sure that data is not being, you have high and medium data. They're not one's not corrupting the other. Now, when you speak federal government, right, they're not just worried about, in terms of MLS, just the operating system. They're worried about the entire system as well. And like, okay, it's not, you have the operating system as MLS, but what about the hardware and so on? So now the hardware needs to undergo certain, I guess, controls. Prime example, in a commercial sector, say this laptop is high, right? I don't have to really worry about it that much, right? I'm not worried about someone coming in, lifting a laptop. I can say, oh, I have encryption, some anti-tamper, something like that, right? That should be enough. Well, the federal government doesn't see it that way. The federal government would have this encased in something that would make 2 or 3 people carry it up somewhere, right? It's, oh yeah, this is classified information, top secret. This needs to be, this can cause grave damage to the nation. Someone could just pick this, lift it, and run. It needs to be 2 or 3 people to do it. So then you have these additional requirements that you necessarily won't have in the commercial sector, right? You don't see someone in healthcare working on a laptop or a machine that needs to be carried by 2 or 3 people. It looks ridiculous, right? You're here trying to save bodies, save people. And you're like, oh, well, I'm worried about a system being stolen, and it's extremely heavy. But in the federal sector, it's important because the way they classify data could be the mission systems, weapon systems, discussions that you may have with someone at the embassy or some other government entity. It's extremely important because it can cause a lot of things and huge ripple effects. All right, talking about modes of operation, clearance level, access approval, need to know. So dedicated, a system is just dedicated to one type of information. That means you can only process that information on that system. So when we did Bella Padua and Bibba, and we talked about Alfred, how you had secret clearance, that would mean that Alfred would only be able to interact with systems that are secret or unclassed, but pretty much he can only read write secret systems. That's all he could touch, right? And that sounds good, but it's highly inefficient when you have a large enterprise. It's just not efficient to have systems specifically for different types of data. Now, the way it used to happen, and sorry, online you can't see, but I'm just drawing some boxes. So this used to be my work environment, right? So on class, secret, top secret, right? So that was SIPRnet, JWix, and I just say regular net. So for me to interact with each of these systems, each of these types of data, it was a different system. That's how it used to be, right? And if it was compartmentalized, if it was like TS SCI, the whole another room, drawing a gun, right? People were guarding it. Here's another artist. Yeah, so it would be insane because now I would have all of these different machines that do different things. It's like, oh, I need to edit this particular application. Oh, it's top secret. I go to this system. I use their particular internet drops. Oh, I need something on class. I need to research something. I go all the way back here. And imagine there's an entire team doing this, right? Because there were times we didn't have enough systems to do our job, right? It was highly inefficient. So that's why MLS is important, because MLS just says you have one system, and within that system, secret, top secret, unclass, people can all exist, right? So everything can exist in one system. Yes.
So Dr. Mo, was the technology there to do MLS previously back then, or is that something that had to evolve with time?
Okay. So it evolved with time. So what people did, they would have a machine, but run 3 separate networks into that machine. Right. So on the surface, you're looking at like the screen, and you're like, oh, okay, great. I can see all these different data classifications, but on the back end, everything is separate. But if you're a soldier, airman, I mean, you're like a dumb 21-year-old, hopefully no one's 20 and dumb, but you don't know. You're like, oh, this is cool. I can do all the stuff in one system, but really in the back end, everything's completely separate. And then remember when I mentioned about the carrying a machine? So there was something through General Dynamics called the Trusted Operating System, which did MLS, but it was MLS with a MILS implementation. That's when you have the independent level of security, so the different items in the back, right? So that was a system that required 2 to 3 people to lift the system. It was a small desktop on an aircraft. And so they're like, okay, it's going to be an aircraft. We need to make sure that someone can't lift it off. And so you had those extra requirements on there. Yeah, but it's there now. But again, there's very select operating systems to use. So with the real-time operating system, for those that didn't go into aviation, aviation has what they call DO-178B and DO-254A. And I think it's DO-178C now. Yeah, it's DO-178C now. So DO-178C deals with software safety, all right? Software safety deals with fault trees and stuff like that. So to say, all right, if this plane is going to crash, hopefully it doesn't crash, it should go through these different faults. And that's what happens on these MLS systems. And so a lot of those systems that are for MLS come from aviation. So they have the commercial aviation requirements built in, and they're translating security. The way it works, typically, you have mission. This is important. Mission, safety, and this is only for like government. Commercial, this doesn't matter. And security. Right? This is how things rank. Mission, safety, security. Mission is we have to get this done. It's important. Lives are on the line. Safety is like, because in tanks, they have items too, right? They have computers, they have all this stuff. That is safety, right? So you're meeting the mission, people are shooting at you, and then you got to make a decision like, oh crap, what do I do? Do I try to format everything on here, or do I try to like, stay alive? And so then you have safety that comes into place, and then security last. So in a tactical environment, they'll say, all right, well, just throw a grenade in the tank and call it a day. Or they'll have what they call like zeroization keys, and you just do something, and everything is just wiped on the system, giving you enough time to hopefully run, take cover, or return fire. But yeah, this is the way it works.
When you say mission, does that mean, is that similar to like mission critical?
Well, the mission, whatever the mission is, the mission may be hand. The mission may be you need to move troops from, they're called rally points. Not so you can like definitely. So point A, we'll say point A is like Chicago, right? And then where enemy is, we'll say Joliet. So the mission, that could be the mission. Get from point A to point B, right? So you're at point B, but you're gonna try to do your mission first, right? That's how it works. Then it's like, oh wow, Joliet is it's not the best. In reality, people, it's not that bad. I don't live that close to Joliet. I live close to Joliet. It's not that bad. But you get to Joliet, and you're like, okay, it's kind of bad and rough. I need to think about leaving here to go elsewhere, right? And so then you think, okay, well, safety is important, but you're not thinking about security at that point because it's safety. Because in reality, when you deal with federal systems, especially tactical, I mean, it's a completely different ballgame, right? You're not working inside an enterprise or a building. You're actually on some, aircraft, tank or something like that, or you may be carrying the actual device. So now you're like, okay, well, I want to stay alive. So then safety comes, but at the same time, you still have security, but they have other means of getting rid of stuff. I mean, you're not gonna be at a hospital. I'm like, all right, I'm worried. I'm gonna throw a bomb or a grenade, and no, it doesn't work like that. It shouldn't work like that. But this is how this works, and then I can talk later about the differences, because in terms of this item, you have tactical and non-tactical environments. Tactical is if you're actually fighting or whatever. Non-tactical is very close. It emulates what I call the real world actually does. Yeah, just different requirements. And all right, I mentioned about the reference monitor. All this is something that mediates all the transactions, right? You don't want the subject talking or doing anything directly with the object. There needs to be something in place to manage that. And that's important because you don't want the subject changing the object and doing all the things that would cause an issue. And then plus, people need to have appropriate access. You need to check their confidentiality, their clearance, and all that good stuff. All right. So here it shows security policy. We talked about a couple of those. And here it says certification and enforcement rules. Log information on Linux system is just var logs. You can go look at the log information and see who's done what. And then there's other things you can use, such as Tripwire, to see what's been done on the system, all the event logs. And then you could take them in a R tool, RStudio. You can use R base, but I don't know if I would tell everyone to go learn how to program R overnight, but using something like RapidMiner RStudio, I think it's fair enough. And you can analyze the events when it's occurring and stuff like that. Right. And it's important because then you can begin to understand, like, okay, well, why do I have these system failures? Why are accounts being locked out? What times they're being locked out? Is anyone at work when they're being locked out? Whose machine is it being done remotely? All this stuff will help you understand like how an individual is playing attack and what particular appliances, whether it's a firewall or whatever in place, they need in place to further protect you. All right, so here it just says design requirements for reference monitor. The reference validation mechanism must always be invoked. The reference validation mechanism must be tamper-proof. This just means that someone can't mess with it. They can't change things of that particular nature. Now, what's interesting is I mentioned earlier about hash. Does anybody here know how to get a hash?
Okay, tell me of hash.
Hashing is a way to basically secure like any form of data that you're transferring, like passwords and stuff. By basically it encrypts it in such a way that it can't be easily unencrypted. Well, it can be. It's basically impossible to unencrypt. It is theoretically possible to unencrypt it, but it's extremely difficult.
Okay, I'm going to share something. Let me bring this bad boy down.
Is hashing basically having a password that like once like they store hashed passwords on sites instead of not like the actual original password. And then like whenever you type in your password, the password gets hashed and then sent. So so it doesn't like it theoretically won't expose every single one of your accounts instead just one.
All right, so I'm gonna do something real quick. Let me make this bigger. All right, so CD MKDIR sample. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna create a file. Okay, I was gonna say touch me, but that's not appropriate. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, let me think of something easy. All right, so I have this. To check the hash, I can do SHA 512 and then 1. Oh, sorry, SHA 512 sum. And it gives me a hash, right? Now, if I change anything in this text file,
Completely changes the whole stuff.
correct. So I'm going to run.
Basically impossible to again, it's almost impossible. It theoretically could be done. You spend a while doing it. It's not an easy thing to undo.
Yeah. Yeah. So everyone here probably downloads files, right? We're downloading legal files or what? Okay. What you should do is you should always check the hash, right? So if you're downloading something that they'll usually say, hey, this is the hash. So you can check the file when you download it. Linux Mint was actually changed. And so there was some malware placed in Linux Mint operating system. It was uploaded to the servers, the official servers. People downloaded, installed it, but no one checked the hash, right? You should always check the hash. It's just really quick. Just SHA 512 sum. They'll even have SHA 56 sums. You just run it real quick, check the items. You can actually run a script that will tell you, oh, there's a difference, right? Just write a diff script. And you'll be able to, make sure that what you download it is legit. You could.
What are the odds of being able to save the file, but not be able to like change the hash?
I mean, sometimes people get lazy.
Yeah, it's like I don't feel like it's more like here than it's actually.
I mean, so you have some people that maybe they upload something different, and they don't put the actual updated hash on there, or they're using like a file share, and they're sharing the file, but people won't go to the official site or they won't go reference.
It's just like the amount of cases where like actually checking it useful is so low that I didn't feel we're wasting so much time for hashing stuff. Like
You should still hash.
I don't really see. It's such an edge case. Like you could do so many more things to like ensure your security, like not download from sus websites.
But file sharing and stuff like that, and
I don't file share like ever.
you download illegal movies.
No.
In previous classes, I had students that would download all their books, from various suspect sites. But
Download something from a suspicious website, like you'd be better off like the contents of the file are probably going to be correct. Like they're not going to not match the hash. It's going to be like they gave you a virus, which is not going to show up if you just hash it.
But what you could do is, if you have source code, right, you could run. We'll do this later. You can run like example, C++, you roll like Flaw Finder, find bugs, JavaScript. You could run these other tools, but it's like a first step, right? It's like saying, I live in an area where there's crime. I'm not going to lock my door. You're going to lock your door? You're going to lock your door, right? Yeah, so you should, this is the first step. And it's an easy thing. It doesn't take long.
If you want, you can always just create a shell script to do it for you.
Yeah, but why are you like, I already typed like W did, why should I not just hash it as well?
If you do the study abroad, I'm gonna have to talk to you directly to make sure you don't get robbed or scammed, okay? Because they sell fake Rolexes and stuff. I'm gonna have to, I'm gonna have to do some mentoring with you. But the problem is like, so in Linux, right? So for files to run, you're using sudo, right? So you're giving the ability to change.
It was downloaded. It's an MP4 file. I opened the MP4 file. It's corrupted. Oh no. Like it doesn't do anything if I don't check the integrity.
You said it doesn't do anything?
It's not a file, it's just data. In order for it to do anything, you have to do like there would have to be some type of vulnerability in the player.
I mean, it could be a player that you have in NEC. Okay, here's another thing that I talked about this in research. So basically you have, we'll say random file. And then you have, I guess you mentioned a player. What did I call it? I can't remember the name I gave it. It's in some paper I wrote. But it's like a sleeping virus, right? Sleeping virus. And then once these two are put together, voila, it awakens. So it's important to check things. Now, the other thing is, when I say, we'll talk about cryptography, we'll talk about the importance of checking for hash and stuff like that, is because you can hide messages in lots of particular things, right? So you can, say that someone sent you a file, you're retweeting some file, and maybe the file is coordinates for an event to occur or something like that, but you have no clue that you're helping pass along this information to a terrorist or gang, smart gang, because they're doing this. Because if you were to check the hash, this is what police will do, smart ones, they'll check the hash, see if files are different, and if something's actually embedded in the actual file.
Yeah, but where would they get the original hash? I don't think like hash sharing.
When we get to cryptography, I'm going to show you some things, right?
It's just like I don't feel like hash sharing. Someone's like, here's a file, and also here's the hash for it. I mean, some websites will say that. It's like
But like, so say you and I are talking, all right? You're like, yo, Dr. Mo, I have a question. And then, but you have no clue that someone's masquerading as me. But if I include in my signature, you see my signature, my digital signature, okay, this is Dr. Mo.
That's a little bit.
I mean, it's close.
Signatures,
I'm going to choose to continue because you're not understanding me. All right. Let's see, let me go back here. Pull this back up. And let's pull this back up. All right, so here it talks about the rings of protection. Just know at the ring zero, you have the operating system. All the way, you have applications, you have the OS, then the OS utilities, right? That's all this is. And you'll see more of this. Okay, cool. There are different implementation models. The ones that are important. Okay. All right, TOGAF. This is the Open Group Architectural Framework. People that do enterprise architecture make a substantial amount of money. I will say that, right? So I've dealt with DODAF because, again, I worked mainly aerospace and defense majority of my career, including consulting. But there's TOGAF, and what this allows you to do is build an architecture that you can flow requirements out to. There's different views for customers, the engineers, the developers, the salespeople. Everybody has a different view of the architecture, which is important, right? Because everyone needs to see it from a different view. So this right here is the start of enterprise architecture EA, and this is the Zachman architecture framework. And you can see here, it shows, what, how, where, who, when, and what, all the different roles, and then what's happening at every level. I'm going to jump here. DODAF 2.0, but going here, this was known as a C4SI architecture framework. Again, this is one of these lovely government acronyms. And then they're DODAF 2.0, but you can see here the three different views: operational view, the system view, and the technical view. And when you dive deeper, you can see that the operational view has a logical data model, operational activity model, organization relationship charts. System view has the systems functionality traceability matrix, system data exchange matrix, system technology forecast, system evolution description, the physical schema, and then a technical standards view, the standards profile and forecast. And this right here is the updated, is the DODAF 2.0. And here you can see more about the views. See, it's expanded quite a bit and everything that's inside. All right. So we're just gonna go here. So this is the Federal Enterprise Architectural Framework. For those that know, that do DODAF, this right here this is like if you work IRS or something like that. If you work within a government, but not Department of Defense, you'll do something like the Federal Enterprise Architecture Framework. I will state this: if you learn DODAF, if you want to go into government, learning DODAF will get you 90% of the way. All right. All right. Here's talking about defense in depth. Defense in depth is basically a term for layered defense. All right. You just can't have one particular item and hope that's going to keep you safe. Prime example is your house, right? You shouldn't just have a sign that says keep out the yard, right? If you have a sign that says keep out the yard, what will people do? Will it stop a lot of people?
Keep out minefield inside.
I was gonna say, I more so see beware of dog than no dog.
And there's no dog, right?
They gotta roll the dice.
You say what?
They gotta roll the dice with the beware of dog.
Yeah, you can look over the fence like, oh, there's no dog. This guy's lying, right?
What he's not.
I mean, you can see the dog and hear barking. You can throw some meat in there and see, you get it.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a difficult deterrents to overcome.
I have always wondered if those security system signs are real deterrents or not.
The EDT one.
Like, how about ADT or whatever? Yeah.
They're not. It depends where. Like,
So,
yeah, I was in prime example. I was living in St. Louis. You all know it's America's most dangerous city. I had alarm, I had signs. The alarm was going off. They were just walking around the backyard, stealing stuff. They saw me. They didn't run. They just didn't care. I was like, oh, okay, whatever.
Dr. Moses.
Oh no. I was prepared. I was prepared. I always say I always keep a peace, right? Never know when you're gonna meet your maker. But the police actually came, and the only reason they came is because there was reported gunshots and there were bullets found later in my roof.
Oh.
And I always joke because, no, it wasn't me. I always joke because I always make a joke saying like Martin Luther King would be proud because it was a black and a white guy that robbed me together. And I was like, you're laughing, but people, it's progress. It's racial progress at its best. But it's
Diversity in criminals.
but it's important to have defense in depth. You think about it from a house, right? You have a sign, you have a fence, you have ample lighting. So like in my backyard, these are like super criminals, right? But I had lighting that would come in, those motion sensors. I had extra items that would let me know that someone's in the garage. Like, oh, someone's in the garage. Okay, cool. I need to get ready, right? So I'm like, all right, let me move to the side of my bed. And so I had all these things in the event either the police come or last resort, someone gets shot, right? So any type of security mechanism you put in place, it gives you opportunity to think, it gives you opportunity to think about what you're going to do, right? Are you going to try to further, barricade yourself out, or are you going to move your resources? During that time, I was like, hey, kids, get in the bedroom, right? Get in the bedroom. They're going to have to come upstairs this way. There's something I can see in the window. They're coming upstairs. I'm just going to start shooting, right? So I was like, okay, no big deal. That was my thought process. So I had all those items in to, one, wake me up, to let me know what's going on. I could see where they're going and moving to and make a decision. Same thing when you think about your actual network. You need to have that in place. You need to have it in place. When we get to running items like SQL map and stuff like that, and I show you the example, and people, I won't be recording this, but I will do it. And you'll see the example how easy it is to find vulnerable websites. It's easy to find vulnerable websites, to take advantage of information that's out there. You run tools like SQL map because individuals, they won't have IDS on their sites. Not at all. They won't have anything. You run SQL map, you don't even go through the hardcore commands. You just run the wizard. You run the wizard, everything comes up. You run other tools like Nmap, map up the network. You start getting credentials, you use those credentials. And if they have an email address that comes up, you take that, put that in Maltego, see what information they have out there publicly, find out their public persona, who they are in real life, find them on LinkedIn, Facebook, find their kids on, I'm not doing anything with anybody's kids, but you can find their kids or whatever on these younger social media sites, because social media sites they're tied with age groups, right? That's just the honesty of it. I mean, if you're using like TikTok, one would suspect that you'll probably be like 25 and younger on TikTok. Using Facebook, because my daughter says the Facebook moms, what she says now, and knowing Facebook moms, they're my age, right? 35, 45 is hardcore Facebook users. And so you can do all this and you can start determining or creating what's called it's an intelligence analysis. Intelligence analysis, create a plan, and then push forward. So I'm going to actually talk at a CyberHawks event, and I'll actually show how to do all this stuff. I'll give a great example, and I'll show how to do like offensive security mixed with intelligence. But yeah, so here you can see, let me click my Levy clicker. So here's showing defense and death, operations, people, technology. The people part is important because there are so many ways that you can take advantage of people in an organization. Just too many ways. Like there's general assumptions in certain organizations that these people, particular people, should be here. All right. What would be like if someone came in here and was masquerading as a student? Would you be able to tell if they're masquerading as a student?
I mean,
Okay, why not visually?
well, I mean, if they look like a student,
How does a student look like?
25 or younger, probably has money.
Has money.
Yeah, I mean.
There's a lot of poor people that go to school here. Not well, lower socioeconomic people. Let me let me use the proper term. They're what? Their confidence.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's extremely confident, you would see them, but they're like, oh, like this, like, we're 3 weeks into school at this point, they don't know something about the school, that's like the basics, like, what does IIT stand for? Where's RE, where is Cable Hall? That might be like, where are you from? You're not really here. Yeah.
Honestly, I'm gonna say that. I would
So,
say
let me say this. So in terms of people, this is why you have like physical security that are able to identify people. You have processes in place, right? Everyone here has a student badge.
Right.
So you say, okay, let me see your student badge. And I give an example is because when I was an undergrad, this happened at University of Alabama, Huntsville. They didn't have proper procedures to identify who were students. You say young, like they have money, they're confident. There was an individual like that, right? Only one of the guys went to this university. The other was his friend from around the way, and they would go into dorms and steal TVs, video game consoles, and everything. You say what?
Dang.
Oh, big TVs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is before your lovely flash. These are the heavy TVs.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
I know.
Yeah, they were stealing furniture, TVs, games, money, clothes.
How they sneak out like furniture and TV?
I mean, no one questioned them. Like you said, they look like they belong.
I mean, yeah, if it's like a movie week or something, they easily
But-
blend it. They look like.
But this is when you think about physical security, like this is where people, are important. You have appropriate people in place to understand what's going on. So say it's the network, right? This is why I mentioned like looking at logs and stuff. So people are logging to the system and you're like, oh, I need access to this. It's like, okay, well, let me check and make sure you have access, that you have the ability to access these particular objects. Oh, okay, you're not even in the system. Now there's a flight that comes up, this person needs to be detained and things like that. So that's why people is extremely important. Also, when you think about operations. We'll talk about this much more, and I'll give some more, I guess, vivid examples. But that's why you have to think about the holistic approach. Like defense in depth can't be just one thing. You can't just have a guard that says, all right, this person's going to stop everyone from coming in and out. The guard is going to have limitations, right? They're going to have limitations. I'm going to look at you like, all right, you can't come in. But he has a badge now. Okay. But it could be, we'll talk about insider, outsider threats, but he could be insider threat. He could be like leaving with USBs and all types of files and stuff. People do it. And so there's systems that actually check your weight before you enter and leave. So now you have this additional technology in. It's like, okay, buddy, you just had lunch. You didn't gain like 20 pounds over lunch. Like, we're not letting you out. And we do a full check. All right. So here, just talking about different, this is allocate security services. And this is a good security architecture would explain security controls with the operations layer, contextual layer, conceptual, logical, physical component. All this always talks about in terms of security is actually embedding security throughout. You got to remember, a lot of these systems did not have security in place. Now they had things that were close to security, like for those that work Department of Energy or nuclear devices, they have something called two-person integrity, two-person control, which means to do anything, it has to be two people, right? So just those concepts were there. Requirements, we'll actually write some requirements later. But here, functional defines the function required, defines functions or behavior of the system and establishes the confidence that the particular specified function will perform as intended. An example, this is from FISMA, it says the number of information systems by FIPS 199 security categories. And then example, it says performance. Yeah, what extent the agency-wide security configuration policy has been implemented. And what we'll be concerned with is these particular requirements. Assurance of functional. SC3 is from a family. Security function isolation. The information system isolates security functions from non-security functions. And then the functional, how you're doing it, VLAN technology shall be created to partition the network into multiple mission-specific security domains. The integrity of the internetworking architecture shall be preserved by the access control list. So the requirement needs to be extremely simple, right? It doesn't need to be complex. Simple. And you only write requirements for things that you will do. Anything that you won't do is just understood, right? It's like, oh, you're coming home, you're going to take out the trash. Yeah, I only say I shall cook. I didn't say anything else. So if I don't say anything else, I'm not doing it. And that's how it's understood. And requirements engineering is a job in itself. There are people, what they'll do is they'll take high-level requirements. An example would be, and I'll show you this before we leave. We'll go through the next slide. So you have NIST 853, and it should be Rev 5. And you may be told, you may be told that you need to meet all medium requirements, right? No medium level. So now you have all these families, categories. And then from there, you'll flesh out so many more, right? You'll have something on cryptography. And this alone may give you like 50 requirements. And then those 50 requirements, they go to either a system, they'll go to a subsystem, a CSCI, or a CI. And so that's what you would do. So one requirement say you need to be compliant to NIST 853 medium level. That'll be the only requirement you get. And then you have to take that one requirement, and you'll have to further decompose that requirement. You'll probably get like 300 requirements total or something crazy. And then that will help determine your architecture and what needs to be done in order to meet that high level requirement. The sneaky thing that happens in proposals, especially from the government, state or federal, especially from the federal government, they'll say, here's our system, it needs to do X, Y, and Z, here's these particular requirements. And then your security requirement, the system needs to be compliant to X, Y, and Z. It'll say that one requirement. And then someone needs to understand, okay, well, this is what the mission weapon system is, or what the system, weapon system more likely. If it needs to be compliant in this 853, it needs to do all these things. What they'll do, what also happens, they'll say, and the system will have a particular network connection. Maybe that network connection is top secret. Now you have to bring in all those top secret requirements and add those in too. And so 1 or 2 blanket statements could equal 700 requirements and tons of design changes and implementation needs to be done. All right. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to close this. I shared a link with you on Blackboard. And that link will take you to this lovely page. All right, this lovely page. And what we're going to do, we are going to break up in groups. And you are going to go through the requirements. All right. Again, I sent this to you. You have it via email, with an announcement and email, so you have it either way. Because at the end of this course, you are going to build an application, and the system is going to need to meet many of these requirements. Bless you. And then the Sunday, we can have our first meetup. So how is like 6 or 7 sound? Good?
What time?
It's not mandatory. Nothing in life is mandatory.
Hmm.
I'm afraid you didn't have to be in class today. You know that, right? It's your choice. I'm still gonna get paid, but it's your choice. No, it's not mandatory. What happens is, like, there's a lot of stuff here to cover, right? You've seen the book, right? Super thick. A lot of stuff to cover. So if I was just to spend time on like reading through the book, chapter by chapter by chapter, that's all you would get. Right. So the weekends allows, you can just open it. It's just like, you're like, open it all the way. All right. The weekends allow like hands-on time. Like, okay, let's see how this works. How do we install this? What does Wireshark do? TCP dump. How can I set up a virtual lab? And that's one of the things that we'll do. Set up a virtual lab. We'll go through these various commands, how to pull this data and stuff like that. Like there's a part that will deal with data. We'll look at data sets, stuff like that. A way to analyze those data sets quick and is to use R. For those that are working on research papers early, we can chat about stuff like that on Sunday. We're like, all right, well, I have issues crafting this. All right, let's talk about what needs to be done. And we just go through that. Now, I'll try to maintain most Sundays, but if I can't do Sundays due to like traveling, I'll do like a Saturday. And even if you don't attend, I'll record it. You just post a question like, yo, I have a question about X, Y, and Z. I'll answer those questions. I'll do a lovely video. I might even smile in the video. And then I'll post that so you'll have that. But it's to help you. Remember when I said the first day of class, like I see you now. I don't mind seeing you again. I just don't want to see you in the same class again. Right? I really don't. There's like way too many students to see over and over again. I'm getting old. My memory's all messed up. So just move past this class. Right. So if you fail this class, you're literally the reason why you failed. All right. How you feel now? Good? You know how you feel? I gave that great pep talk and what more intimidated? Yeah, I don't know if I don't think I ever gave anybody a story here. Let me see. Oh, I have a life story. Let's see. Second. like I joke a lot, but I have there's a reason behind the madness. And oh, here we go. All right, I'll share this. And then so you guys can know what this is. Sure, aneurysm. All right. So 2015. Let's figure out what's going on with this mouse. All right, so 2015 is when it's happened. I had to think about the time. So is anybody here familiar with the ruptured brain aneurysm? Yeah. Okay, so I had one. So I was in my office. I called a friend. I said, hey, my head hurts. It's not that bad, but I think I need to go to the hospital. And I'm in St. Louis, as I mentioned. So I say, just call me when you get close to the job. And I put my healthcare, my insurance card in my pocket. There's all the stories people probably hear about certain groups not being helped at hospitals because they don't know if they have insurance. I was like, I don't want to be one of those people. So I had my insurance, my card. I fell asleep with a headache. My friend calls and she's like, Mo, wake up. I'm like, okay, I'm up. She's like, come downstairs. I can't get in the building. So I go in the elevator. I lose control of my legs. This floor is all torn up. So I can't use my legs. I have to low crawl, right? Like in the military, you didn't crawl, you pull yourself. So I had to drag myself from the elevator to the front door. So it's like a trail of blood or whatever. Unlock the doors. She grabs me, the police come, ambulance comes, and then I wake up several days later. Oh yeah. So what I had was this. It was a ruptured brain aneurysm. So it says 25% of people who experience a brain aneurysm rupture die within 24 hours. 50% of people die within 3 months due to complications. And then of those that survive, about 66% experience permanent brain damage. So I had a ruptured aneurysm, partial lung collapse. I had a stroke, symptoms of a stroke. I had some other stuff, pneumonia, and then I was in a coma. All right. So all that happened. And I had to learn how to walk and talk again.